So you're courageous to be here this morning because I'm very aware that, we're going in a completely different direction. We're going on the subjective side. And the reason why I call this segment the emotional belly is because in my experience, if we don't consider the emotions on our journey to good health, then we can set ourselves up for self-sabotaging. Because there's a lot of unconscious emotion, and I speak from experience, and I will share with you my experience, but there's a lot of subconscious, unconscious emotions that have been repressed for often a lifetime, and we don't even know they're there, and they live in the tissue of our body. And then when we do all the right things, take all the right steps, listen to all the good advice, and we're still reaching for that food, or we're still engaging in relationships that are not healthy for us, and we don't know why, then I'll give you, we'll talk about that today. Get a glimpse into, what lives kind of below our intellect, because we spend most of our life living up here. I know I did for a very long time, and I know I'm young, so how long was that? But I'll share that with you. So I'm a life coach, and I have a spiritual kind of inclination where I find that when we connect with our purpose, with our meaning, with our reason for being here, so many things fall into place. When we feel connected with our passion, when we feel connected to our identity as more than just this body, more than just this mind, but something else. And we can call it many different words. Whatever resonates with us, we can call it source, we can call it divine, we can call it God, we can call it love, really, because at the source of it, in my experience, it's all love. When we connect with something like that, we access our own wisdom, we access our own medicine, we access our own healing, and we tap into that self-healing capability. And things that we maybe never thought could get better. Or situations that we thought we would never get resolution. But it's not always, easy to describe to people what I do. Especially if I'm invited at a dinner party and people say, so what do you do? And I was like, well, I help people with their feelings. And they kind of look around trying to find another set of eyes to connect to. Or they'll say, I think I need another glass of wine before I talk to you tonight. But I don't know if some of you in the room can relate to this, but I've always been like that. Since I was very young, I've always been over the top curious about people and what their heart had to say. Sure, I wasn't always met with understanding, and I've made a few adults uncomfortable along the way, as a child especially. But eventually, I found my family of choice, my soul family, I call it. The people with whom I can explore the complexity and the beauty and the depth of the human heart. They don't seem to be right around us, right? Like when we seem like our immediate family maybe, and the people right around us, we often stand alone in what we know. And we have that experience with the Wheat Belly journey as well. A lot of people thought we were crazy, eliminating wheat out of our diet, and you stand alone in what you know. That's where the subjective experience is important. Is it feels good to me, therefore it's important, right? My health matters. I matter, therefore this is important to me, and that's it. And let the chips fall where they may, right? So you live your truth, and then the people around you, we don't have to preach to them, we don't have to convince them. But in modeling this truth and modeling what feels good to us, we're saying my subjective experience of my own health is very important. It's the most important to me. And so that's a big show of self-love. And you've all showed up, on the cruise. You've demonstrated self-love by coming here. And then you showed up this morning and you've demonstrated self-love by showing up this morning too. So I really want you to take a moment to just be, proud of yourself for making that big change in your life. So I want to talk a little bit to start about my journey. I had a very interesting experience when I was 23. So I was heading down the path that I was told was the right path, right? So I was in university in a program that would assure me a financially secure career. I had a partner, and we'd been together for many years, and he also was on a career track that was going to assure him a financially secure career. I was living the life that I was told I was supposed to, or I thought that's the life that people want, the people around me, my role models, were demonstrating, and emotions had nothing to do with it. I had been very good at managing my emotions, because I learned very young that when I show exactly who I am and I show up in this I was very exuberant child, not only am I not seen, but we're reprimanded, or we're told that it's too much, tone it down, bring it down, and eventually you kind of learn to manage your emotion, to measure your emotion, and sometimes completely shut them down. And what that does is it takes us out of our body and into our mind, where we can manage emotions intellectually much more easily. Here is more of the realm of the spontaneous, right? I feel an emotion, I'm engaged in this moment, I'm having a conversation with someone, or I'm witnessing a beautiful bird taking flight, and I'm feeling this beautiful moment, and then I express whatever exuberant comes out of me, and that's a moment of being authentic, spontaneous, right? But many, many repetition of growing up and having that interrupted, that beautiful movement of spontaneity, we learn how to interrupt that movement. And it does create health problems, emotional problems. So I was on this track, and I knew that I was ignoring something, because when a situation didn't feel right, I could feel my stomach tightening. But I decided to ignore it. So I had a few experiences like that until one day, we were coming back from golfing, me and my partner, and we got into a big car accident. And something very different, I'd never experienced anything like that before, happened that night. So on the impact, my liver got lacerated. So it was a pretty strong impact, and my lungs partially collapsed. And so when I would gain consciousness, I couldn't breathe. So I panicked, and everyone around me was panicking. And so then I would lose consciousness again. And when I was unconscious, I could see in my mind's eyes, like a movie, this life that I was supposed to live. Now, I can only say that in hindsight. I say supposed to live. It felt like my life, but it was not the one I was living. What was that experience? Was it a spiritual experience? Was it, just a trauma? I don't know. But what I know is that it was very important to me. I not only saw the people in my life in this movie, I not only saw the things that I would do, the people I would help, but I felt it. I felt happy. I felt meaningful. My life felt meaningful. My life felt like it had a bigger purpose than myself, than just staying on that track. of security and safety and measured life. When I wake up in the hospital, what do you do with that? Right? I look around and they're so different. These two lives are so different. So that was 2001. I was 23. And so it took me a good 10 years to merge these two lives, where I can say that now I'm there. I'm fully in my life, in my body, and I'm on my path. That's a big thing to say, right? I'm on my path. What does that even mean? But it is an experience. It's a kinesthetic experience of knowing that I'm aware of all of my organism, and I'm also aware of the people around me, and I'm in my body in the present moment, here and now. So wake up in the hospital, and I know I have to make some changes, but what I know at that point is I know how to distinguish what doesn't work for me. So I remember the feeling of tightening in my belly, right, when something is not quite right. So I start with this step, the step of I am not going to do the things that don't feel right for me. Do I know what feels right? I don't know yet. I don't know what I love. I don't know what I'm passionate about, but I do know that when something's not right, this is how it feels. So I continue my program, go off to university, meet a different partner, and when I'm pregnant and I'm doing my PhD, so still very much in the intellect, right? Doing my PhD, focusing on understanding the world. So I was doing my PhD in French literature. So understanding art and understanding literature and understanding the world from a very intellectual perspective. And when I gave birth to my first child, I remember I looked at him in the hospital, and he looked at me with these eyes of unconditional love. I'm sure there's parents in the room that can remember that moment. And I had never experienced that before, that kind of unconditional love. Something opened up here. So I was making the journey down here, slowly but surely. And so I'll always remember that moment, because I know that after that I couldn't go back. I couldn't turn back. What happened at the time is that I was experiencing a lot of sinus pain. So for someone who is doing, writing and doing a lot of thinking and research, if your head hurts, it's not ideal. And I knew I really enjoyed thinking and pondering things and writing, and I didn't understand why I had this issue. So it started, a year before I had my first child. The seasons, would pass, and I would have a sinus infection. Then I'd take an antibiotics, and then it would go away. The next season, it would come. It would take longer to go away. And then it would kind of come back if the weather was, it was a little overcast, but it wasn't lasting. Then the next season came, and then sinus pressure and the sinus pain wouldn't go away with antibiotics, with nasal sprays, with all kinds of medications. So I started to look into, different avenues. So I went to a radiologist, I went to an allergist, I did the Candida diet, and it did alleviate some of the symptoms for a little while, but not long enough to for me to really feel like I was healthy. So this lasted for 2 years. I would wake up in the morning and I remember that I was in pain, and then the rest of the day I'd be in pain, and wake up the next morning, and eventually you start to feel depressed, right? Living with with intense pain, and trying to do the things that I thought I really wanted to do. Until one day my mother-in-law was here. She said, I think you need to take this course. And the course was called Women in Leadership. And had it not been that title, I don't think I would have gone. because if I knew what it was really about, I would not have gone. Women in leadership really appealed to my intellect. It appealed to my ego, right? It said, wow, yeah, I love the idea of, being in a position of leadership when I finish all my studies and maybe becoming a principal or a teacher or a professor, and that would be great. And so I love that idea. I love the feeling. So I show up. There's about 13 women in the group. And the teacher begins to talk about epigenetics and meditation. So epigenetics is the study of genes and how, they are affected by the environment, right? So the environment outside of us. So all of the the events that happen as a child, growing up, so our family systems, and also the environment inside our bodies, so our emotional body. And how it affects our health, and it affects our, our ability to succeed and our ability to be happy and to enjoy life fully. I'm like, I don't know what that has to do with leadership, but I'll continue to listen. And she's always reminding us to breathe deeply. Always. And I was like, okay, I really don't understand what's going on. And as she's talking and, supporting us in breathing, and I'll breathe, I can see some of the women around the group starting to cry. And now I'm really annoyed. I was like, I didn't sign up for this. The kinds of sobbing that were coming out of these women, courageous women, I thought were really better in private when you're at home with someone you trust, and I was looking for the exit door, looking to see if there was a break in her talking so I could go to the bathroom and maybe not come back. But I was too polite. I couldn't interrupt her. So I just sat there and I just breathe. I breathe deeply. And I don't remember the words she said, but she looked at me and she said something. And I took that deep breath. And the next thing I knew, I was the one in a hot mess of snot and tears. And she's telling me to breathe deeply, but that's the last thing I want to do. But my heart knew this is what I needed. My heart knew this is what I needed. My mind wanted to leave. My heart was like, you have to listen to this. This is important. This is important. This is what you crave. This is who you are. This is who you used to be, and you forgot. What is this it that you used to be, right? It's so mysterious, but it is a call that we feel here. Subjective call, right? So a few minutes go by, and I'm sitting there, and she comes over, and she even uses me as an example. And she says, this is what it looks like when someone's processing emotion that have been blocked for a long time. And I'm looking at her, oh my gosh, what is happening to me? Anyway, all that to say that night, I felt so much relief around my sinuses in my head. There was such clarity in my mind. I felt incredible. Now, it didn't last for very long. I wouldn't say that, the next morning I woke up and I was completely healed, but it piqued my curiosity. So I decided to do one more course with her. So I took a 5-day course with her. I knew that I couldn't run away. 5 days, out of my routine. So I plucked myself out of my daily routine. I had one child at a time, and, kind of pushed the thesis aside and just jumped into this 2 feet in. I was like, if I can get some relief, I might have found something really important here. After 5 days, the sinus pressure and the sinus pain hasn't come back, even to this day. So something big happened. Something huge happened, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted to explore more, and I wanted to share that with people. So what is it that happened? Does anybody have any idea of what that could have been? Does that resonate at all or make any sense? Pardon me? Catharsis, yeah. Yes. So what I learned then is that the traumatic events that we have since the moment we're conceived, it could be little, it could be big, it could be emotional, it could be physical. It could be as simple as, I'm playing around in the forest and I find this amazing frog and it's just beautiful and it's dripping in mud. And I come inside the house and it's like, look, Mom, it's amazing, it's beautiful. And there's a white carpet underneath, right? And then obviously she'll say, get this out of here. Get this out of here. Simple, right? Little things like that where there's a movement of feeling and energy, and I call it almost like spirit. It just moves through you, and you are experiencing life to the fullest, and then there's an interruption, a flow. Flow is interrupted. So that would be kind of a small experience. So the second time you go and you get that reaction, this is dirty, get it out of here. Don't do that. Oh my gosh, you're all dirty. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, you start to learn patterns. Your body starts to adjust. You start to shift the way that you are in these moments because it doesn't feel emotionally safe. It doesn't feel like you're being seen or you're being validated or you're being I like to say emotionally safe, right? All the range of emotions. And all the way to, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse, all the experience of traumas. There's a huge spectrum. They live in the cells of our bodies. They integrate in the tissue of our body. And that's the work of Bruce Lipton, who's a physician. He wrote the book, Biology of Belief. And this idea that we acquire beliefs in the tissue of our bodies. And so by living up here in our heads all the time, we ignore all this suppressed information. But by bringing breath back into the equation, deep breath, into the nose, and out through the mouth, we tell our bodies that we're safe again and that it is okay to feel and that something is about to change. Something can shift, something can go home, something can be released. So the first time in that room, it was scary. I thought something was stuck in my throat. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. When I was in that room and she was asking me to breathe deeper, it was like shards of glass were in my throat. But I, took that counterintuitive breath. We can't hurt ourselves with breath. And that's one thing I learned is I thought I could hurt myself with breathing deeper, but we can't. So I took that deep breath, and through that experience, that release happened. Then the second time and the third time, it gets easier and gets easier until one day, breathing deeply in the presence of all kinds of emotional situation is just a way of being. So that was kind of my quest, was to find, can I live like that moment to moment? Is it possible for me to just be present to my breath, to my entire emotional, physical, spiritual body, and sustain that? I was on a quest, right? So what I found through that experience, and then I went on to study shamanism in Hawaii with a Huna shaman. I also studied at the Chopra Center meditation and Ayurvedic medicine. And I continued to do these studies in epigenetics, so that I could really support my clients and the people in my workshops, and completely transform my path. So when I graduated from my PhD, I decided this is great. I always thought I was going to become a professor. This was my dream, but I it's not my path. It really just isn't. I did try to teach. I did for a couple of years in Nova Scotia. And that same thing, I could feel my belly. No, there's something more. This is not for you. This is not your path. It's a box. And your life is out there. And it just wasn't for me. So I want to share with you what I came up with. There are 4 simple words, okay? Do, think, feel, and be. These 4 things we do every day. Do. We spend a lot of time doing, right? We react out of habit on automatic pilot most of our days. Reacting instead of responding consciously with awareness. It's just habitual, right? And we don't stop often to think, why do I do the things I do? Did I choose that? Is this a conscious choice? Am I doing all those things that I do during the day because I want to, or because I've been doing them forever and it's just who I am, right? Then we do so much, it's amazing we still have time to think, but think we definitely do. We have about 70,000 thoughts a day. And you think with that many thoughts, we'd have a variety of beautiful, creative thoughts. But unfortunately, about 90% of our thoughts are recycled from the day before. Then we wonder why our days look alike, right? They're very similar because most of our thoughts are the same ones that we had the day before. So from the worries and the concerns that we have, it's very busy up there. We spend our days up here. Then we come down to feel. We don't love to feel because we don't like to feel the bad stuff. We don't like to feel the uncomfortable stuff. Being numb is more comfortable. Unfortunately, by keeping away the undesired emotion, we also keep away the peace and the joy that's out there for us. We can't say, I'm going to keep the bad away and only feel the good. We can't be selective like that. So Bruce Lipton talks about how the body can't be in protection mode and growth mode at the same time. So either we're in a fight or flight situation where we're protecting ourselves from a real or a remembered threat, or we're in the parasympathetic system, we're relaxed, our body has a chance to regenerate, to heal, and to self-create. We can't be in both at the same time. So we can't spend our days like this, being scared or afraid in fear, and expect a great health, and expect creativity and joy and more purpose to come through, right? So the idea is to come back to a sense of safety in here and relax into the experience of being in our bodies. Then we go down to be, and that's the irony. We're human beings, and we barely make some time to be in the run of a day. So these 4 simple words, in my opinion, in my experience, kind of at the root of our human suffering, simply because we do them in the wrong order. So flip them around. Start with be and see what happens, right? So be is a more subtle experience of being, of living, and of existence. I kind of see it where spirit meets tissue, where the unmanifest becomes manifest. It's always there. It's always available to us. even if we forget that it's there. Sometimes if, you do meditation, we can tap into it in the gap between our thoughts, right? It's very subtle. But could we live there? Could we be in that state of just presence and being aware of ourselves in that way most of the day? All of the time? Is it possible that our life could become almost like a living meditation, moment to moment? I'd like to think so. So then when we bring up the experience into feeling, we give ourselves the permission to be the sentient beings that we are. We give ourselves the permission to fully feel the experience of being a spiritual being living a human experience, as opposed to the other way around. Right? We often think we're a human being, and then sometimes we have these transcendent experiences. The way I see it is we are transcendent beings, and we happen to be having a human experience right here, right now. So when we shift that perspective, our world opens up. And fear starts to fall off because I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm much more than that. Then our thoughts and our actions are like afterthoughts. They support the heart. They support our soul. So they become a supporting role as opposed to being the first line of defense. As opposed to having our thoughts and our action be the first thing that we do. They come after this beautiful movement of being and feeling. And then our words and our actions and our thoughts are infused by this beautiful movement. So there's a coherence, a resonance between my soul, my emotions, my thoughts, my words, and my action. One beautiful movement. One dance. When I became a life coach about 6 years ago, there was still, so I had done a lot of meditation, I'd done a lot of work on myself, done a lot of healing work, and there was still this one little bit that midday, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I felt like I wasn't enough. That's the big answer to it, but what's the experience of that is like I need to reach for food. I need either a coffee or switch to wine, right? Like that time where during the day, like, is it too early now to switch to wine and go from coffee to wine? And I was like, what is going on? Like there's still something that I don't feel quite grounded. I don't feel quite satisfied. And just the kind of personality I had to look into that. And that's when I came upon the Wheat Belly. My husband, Paul, was a chef before this part of his life, this chapter of his life. And so, it was Christmas time and we all got the flu. We were all cooped up in the house. The extended family was there, and he picked up the book and he decided that he was going to try to cook, a Wheat Belly Christmas. And we didn't have a choice. We were all very sick, and Carol was there, and so after 2 weeks of being there and eating wheat free, when we all kind of emerged from that flu, we felt fantastic. And I thought, well, I'll continue to do this thing and see how it feels. The next month, I experienced clarity of mind I never experienced before. I felt like a fog had lifted. I'm sure some of you have experienced that going off wheat, right? And then I thought maybe I could, have a little bit here and there and just have one croissant once in a while. And then, I had a slice of spelt bread, and I felt flu-like symptoms right away. So I realized I developed a sensitivity to it. Before that, I had no problems eating wheat. But being off of it for a couple of months, I had become very, very sensitive to it. But that midday um, hunger midday, I'm just not feeling good, was gone. It completely left. And that's also when I decided to stop drinking. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should do that, because drinking is fun, but I felt the exact same experience with stopping alcohol. Clarity of mind, and the biggest gift was my intuition became much stronger. So I had someone who told me, a shaman had told me a long time ago, that drinking alcohol kind of creates a veil between you and your intuition. And so I wanted to try that. I wanted to see, can I maximize my health? Can I actually become like optimally attune? It's almost like I see my body as this instrument that I can attune to its best capacity. And so now it's been 3 years, off the weed and no alcohol, and I still see changes in my body. I still see changes in my mind. It still continues to show its, and I think Bill was talking about that yesterday, how it, over many months and sometimes years, the process of health and better health continues to unfold. So I'd like to do a little meditation with you if you're open to it. Yes? Yes? Okay. So this meditation is, so my intention with this meditation is to help you become aware of the inner field of your body, so the energetic field of the body, where there's a communication that happens. When we're young children, we know this communication so well. We live very in tune with our bodies, very in tune with our intuition. And so when something doesn't feel good, we just say no. If we don't have the interference of adults around us, we just say no, right? So this meditation, I found very powerful to become more attuned with this communication system. It's subtle, so we have to turn off the mind as much as we can, because the mind is loud, right? Even as you're sitting here, I'm sure you can hear it, chatting away. And a really important thing when it comes to self-love and doing all this process, because you're here because you care about your health, you care about your well-being, is noticing the tone in which we speak to ourselves in our thoughts. Are we kind? What is the general tone of our thoughts? Are we hard on ourselves? I know I am, and working very hard at becoming more tender, more soft with myself. Wow, if someone in my life spoke to me the way I speak to myself, I would not have them around. So that's a good gauge. Would you keep someone who speaks to you the way you speak to you? And especially when a stressful moment comes up, that's when we're really, really hard on ourselves. So for this meditation, I'd love for you to use your intellect to focus your attention. So that's how we're going to keep it happy, right? Because it loves to be engaged. It's the ego. It likes to keep us knowing what we're doing. So we're going to use the intellect, and we're going to keep it on our attention inside our body. So we're going to use the attention, the intellect, to go deep down inside the body. It's a very subjective experience. All I invite you, so the invitation is to just notice and be aware and observe. Anything is great. So any experience is perfect. And it depends if you've done meditation before. So who's done meditation before? Yeah. Okay. And so if you've done meditation before, your experience will be different. And if you've never done meditation before, your experience will be different as well. So be kind and gentle to yourself, that this is the important part, it's the empowerment part, is the subjective experience is the most important part of the experience. It's owning who we are. What is the truth of my experience right here, right now? because nobody else is going to do that for us. Okay, so make yourself comfortable. So you want to uncross your legs, uncross your arms, and try to feel your feet planted on the floor. And then you're going to close your eyes. And don't try to keep your back too straight. You want to be comfortable, so lean back and just allow your back to rest and relax. Close your eyes and just bring your attention to your breath. So that just means being aware of the breath coming in and the breath going out. Now for this meditation, I'm going to invite you to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. In yoga, we breathe into the nose and we breathe out through the mouth, through the nose, to keep the energy inside. Now with this meditation, we're going to exhale through the mouth as to release, surrender, let go of. And we're going to deepen the breath. So 5 counts in and 5 counts out. We're going to do 5 like this. Now continue to breathe deeply. Your attention, so your thoughts are on your breath. If you find yourself going into other thoughts, gently bring yourself back to the breath. When we deepen the breath, it tells our bodies 2 things. We're safe, because when we are experiencing trauma in our childhood or young adult life, we hold the breath. So now by deepening the breath, we say, you're safe, it's okay, I've got you, I'm here, we're good. And then it says also, something's about to change, we're about to shift something, and I'm open to that change. Now imagine that the core of your being, so all the way from the base of your spine, all the way up to the top of your head, where the soft spot on a baby's head is, opens up like a hollow cylinder. So the core of your being, from the base of your spine, up your spine, all the way up to the top of your head, opens up like a hollow cylinder, so that you can see, you can visualize an empty core. And right at the top of your head, imagine a white feather. So your attention is anchored in the form of a white feather at the top of your head. And this feather is just floating. And ever so gently, we're going to invite the feather to make her way down into the core of your body. Now you're going to take your time. I'm going to guide you down. But if at any time I'm going too fast, you decide the pace of this. So invite the feather to enter the core of your being, and just visualize it going behind your eyes. So there's a beautiful energy center right in the midbrain there called the third eye. Take a few breaths with your attention in that center, and just become aware of any sensations, emotions, images, feelings, thoughts, and breathe deeply. Now invite the feather to continue her way down behind the nose and into the throat. Now this center here can be intense, it can feel tight. Our jaws can feel tight. Make sure that your tongue is not on the roof of your mouth. Allow it to gently soften and relax. Invite your breath to soften your jaw, your throat, the back of your neck, and notice any sensations, thoughts, feelings, emotions, images, colors, anything. Observe without any judgment, and just be with the experience of being at that level in your body. This is where we speak our truth. This is where we express who we are. So if it's something we have difficulty with, we can feel tightness there. So with your next exhalation, just invite the feather to continue her way down into the heart space. Take a few deep breaths with your attention in your heart. This is a powerful center. Sometimes we keep our heart closed because it feels intense to feel emotions. But in this moment, I invite you to breathe deeply into the heart and invite it to soften. See if you can actually feel the organ of your heart, if you can feel the space around your heart. And maybe even lift the corners of your mouth up and smile a little. It is the center of love, peace, harmony, and joy, and laughter. Now see if you're able to bring the feather even deeper into your body, all the way into the abdomen. Just visualize it floating down. There's a lot of nerve endings in the stomach. We keep a lot of our emotional baggage there. Family system events and situations that happened within our own family system when we were young. A lot of those memories live in the second chakra. We call it the sacral chakra, which is a little bit underneath the navel and inside, deep in our core. Take some deep breaths, a few deep breaths with your attention in that area of your body. And see if you can notice anything. Any emotions, any feelings, images, colors, sensations. Or it could just simply be peace, whatever the experience is. invite the feather to make her way down all the way to the base of the spine. So right there at your coccyx, it finds a resting spot. Now if you're able to keep your attention on the feather and it is resting at the base of your spine, you are as far away as possible within your core from your thoughts. The vibrations of the root chakra, so the energy center that's right at the base of our spine, is much slower, than the vibrations of the crown chakra at the top of the head. So when we need calm and we need a break from our thoughts, this is where we can go. So take a few deep breaths. Put your attention deep down at the base of your spine. Now keeping your eyes closed, just notice your bodies. Do a scan and see. Is there a place where I feel pain, tightness, maybe even a little nervousness or stress? Is there a place where I feel heavy? Or it could be that I feel light. And when you identify that place, bring the feather there. Bring your attention there. And I'm going to invite you to breathe into that space. So blood flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. So by bringing your attention there with your breath, you're inviting movement. You're inviting flow. And just see what happens. Perhaps the tightness goes somewhere else. It moves somewhere else. Follow it. Perhaps the feeling of expansion grows bigger. Whatever your experience is, follow the sensations in your body. Let your body tell you what it needs. It might be completely new to you. All you need is your curiosity and your will, your desire to remember this communication system. And breathe. Now the last thing we're going to do, I'm going to invite you to bring your attention back to your heart. So breathing deeply, opening up the chest, so it's really taking a deep breath and really expanding the rib cage, bringing the shoulders back and releasing. Let's do one more like that. So we're going to breathe and we're going to expand the belly first. Then expand the rib cage, then bring the shoulders back, and then we're going to hold our breath at the top, and then take in a little bit more air, and then we're going to let go. Now I invite you to bring a memory back, a positive memory, a happy memory, a memory of a time where either you laughed so hard, you felt so good from something being so funny. Or maybe it wasn't even funny, but you were laughing so hard. Or a moment of pure joy. You remember your heart opening up. Whatever the experience is, a happy memory. See if you can breathe deeply and see if you can feel the experience of that memory. So bring in the feeling into your heart and see if you can experience kinesthetically inside that space that memory, and breathe into that feeling. With your breath, you're allowing that experience to expand and take more space into your heart. There's an essence in that is who you are. That feeling, that sensation, that experience of joy is the essence of who you are, whatever that experience is for you. Now we're going to gently open our eyes, but very gently. So I'm going to invite you to slowly open your eyes and see if you can keep the presence of your attention in your body, but with your eyes open. And if you open your eyes and you feel like you've lost it right away, close your eyes again and give it one more try. See if you can keep this whole body awareness, or even this sensation that you had in your heart, even with your eyes open. This meditation, I do have it on my website. I call it a body awareness meditation, and it's the more we do it, the more we become attuned to this subtle communication of our body. But eventually, we don't even need to hear the guided meditation. It's something we can do, is by just bringing our attention as profound, as deep as we can within our bodies. And then living from that place is a very different experience. I find there's a lot less to do and a lot less to say. You know, I don't know about you, but I used to almost pre-plan conversations just to make sure that I that I knew what I was going to say and I was going to say the right thing. I remember that in my early 20s, like I was going to go into a social, situation, and it was a specific kind of party, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I could talk to that person about that, and then I'll know, like I'll be me, right? And that's tiring, right? So it's a very different experience to be here and just to allow the present moment to reveal itself to us in all its creativity. And I find that there's a lot more listening, right? A lot less talking, and much more peace inside the body. And then there's the opportunity to allow that beautiful release to happen when the moment is right, when the situation is right, when we are in a safe container, in a place where we know we can experience these emotions. So I'd love to know what that experience was for you, what the meditation, how it was for you. Did you notice what was your body saying? I guess that's my question. What was your body saying? Yeah.
Well, I've never meditated before, never done anything. But when we started doing that and started the feather going down behind the eyes, everything turned purple. And, And as it started going down, the screens started moving in on the purple. And then the more I relaxed, the purple took over. And then when you went into the happy thoughts, the purple just took the green right out. I got it. My wife could attest, I don't normally talk. I don't really say anything about any of this stuff. But I'm sorry, that was something I've never experienced.
I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm so happy you're sharing it, right? Because that's incredible that you were open enough to have the experience, right? Yeah. So breathing is really good, right? Even in the moment after the meditation, we feel something shifted, and there might be, movement that wants to happen. the best thing we can do is give ourselves the permission to just be with that experience. Yeah. So in the chakra language, the purple is the crown chakra energy, which is your connection to your soul, to your spirit. The green is the color of the heart. Yeah. So what did it mean for you?
I don't know, it was just kind of like just a release.
Yeah. Good.
Explain it.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think that that is a very good reminder, is that we try to explain, to make sense of what the movements that happen and the emotions that come up, and that's where we lose our connection to the actual flow of the emotion moving through, right? Because when we were young, we said, "But what's going on? Tell me, explain to me. Tell me, what are you? Stop crying and tell me what you're feeling." And so then it would jar us out of our bodies and away from feeling the experience, when there's no words for that. There's no words from the emotion. It's just a movement. And the best thing we can do is breathe and let the movement happen. And the ego doesn't like that. It's like, what do you mean? I need words, I need labels, I need categories. And so we just go, we say, I hear you. That's great. I'm gonna just put you aside for a moment. I'm gonna go back to how it feels, and we're gonna breathe. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing.